Michael Lemberger was 74 years old when he passed away last June at the hospice house here in Ottumwa. The famed photographer, artist, and historian spent a lifetime building the Lemberger collection, a well-documented and archived stockpile of more than 1.5 million images. Michael took many of the photos himself, others he purchased or collected through auctions, addicts, and fellow photographers. On April 24th, what's been described as the largest and best documented photo collection in the world will be donated to the University of Iowa and the University of Northern Iowa. We sat down with Leanne Lemberger, Michael's wife of nearly 41 years, as well as Isaac Campbell, the man spearheading the collection's donation to the universities, to talk about Michael and his life work. In this 5-part series, we examine Michael's life, his collection, and his legacy. In part 1, it's all about Michael.
When Michael was about 8 years old, he was an only child, and he was spending some time in his grandmother's attic in Centerville. As an only child, he was off playing by himself, and he found a bunch of glass plate negatives in the attic of his grandma's house. And that intrigued him, and that was where his interest in photography started. Those glass plates were Centerville images of the 1890s, a steam calliope in a circus parade, that kind of thing. And he was intrigued, and that was what kicked off his interest. He asked for a darkroom kit, and after that he started taking his own pictures, developing his own film, took an interest as a junior high student, started to do things like ride with the highway patrol and spend nights at the fire station, and that was where it started.
He was Air Force.
Air Force.
He was Air Force. He was part of the 363rd Reconnaissance Air Tactical Command. Served in Sumter, South Carolina, and they did aerial photography of all of South America. This was when Richard Nixon came to dedicate the dam at Lake Rathbun. So he's just gotten off Air Force One. Here's Richard Nixon. And here's Michael with camera to his eye and camera around his neck and a gadget bag that you can't really see on his shoulder. And the Secret Service agent here has hold of the gadget bag strap, keeping control of him just in case he would lunge toward the president. He didn't know that until after he saw the picture later.
He did hours and hours and hours of work. It basically was his full-time job. He would be digging through the negatives, find things that he had not seen before, and his excitement would be, oh, look what I found. I didn't know that this particular view of this, I knew about this instance, but I didn't know this incident, but I didn't know that this picture was part of the collection. Look what I found. One of the boxes that came to him from an auction had a candy box on top that had pastels and artist's chalks and that kind of thing in it, and he hadn't really dug beyond that. And when he finally did, there were negatives at the bottom of it from the Amanas in the 1930s and from the Stone City Art Colony that Grant Wood organized in the 1930s, from the first year of the Stone City Art Colony. And that was, I remember that excitement when he found those, because it was just, there just are very few instances of negatives from the Amanas in that period. One of the things about Michael is that he was devoted to photography. And when he was in high school, his mother could always find him with one phone call to the police. Most parents, when they call the police about their kid, it's not a good thing. But she always knew that the police department knew where he was. If he wasn't hanging out at the police department, he was at the fire department hanging out with the firemen, or he was out riding with the highway patrolman. When he was in high school, the highway patrol would stop by his house and pick up his cameras and then go pick him up at school, and then take him home at midnight, and he'd start the day over again the next day. And at one point there was some fuss about this high school kid riding with the patrol because it was, really not, maybe it was frowned on. And so Michael turned to his godfather and said, hey, what about it? His godfather was Herschel Lovelace, who was governor at the time. So he went right on riding with the highway patrol. He was chasing scanners all the time. He had scanners in the car, he had scanners in the house, and he had me trained too. If he was out somewhere and I heard something on the scanner, I'd call him. Yeah, he always, and he maintained all those contacts. He had wonderful contacts deep into the infrastructure of Ottumwa. The people everywhere would call him with news tips.